and not taking a desktop approach and actually going and seeing it as well. James, I know you couldn't hear Shanta before, but just I think, and hopefully I'm not going to butcher this, just in terms of new mineral, the need for critical minerals and the type of expansion that might occur there, what protections are actually being put in place to make sure that those risks are continuing to be managed, that we don't see local communities kind of suffering for the kind of common good. Did I get there? Did I mainly get there? Ish? Yes. Yeah. And the latest iPhone. Yeah. 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 Okay, and the rest of the question was, is there more that companies need to do to just grapple with that issue as well? Do we need more and more and more of this, which will continue to have an impact on the environment and human rights? Go ahead. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Vanessa. Look, in terms of standards around these sorts of risks and impacts, and I think the question touched on the issue of tailings and tailings dams, but just to give an example, that there is now a global industry standard around tailings dams and tailings dam risk, which has been, it doesn't cover every company in the industry. It's organised through what's called the International Council on Mining and Metals, which is the if you like, the kind of industry, 25 to 30 industry majors, which sets minimum best-in-class standards for tailings dams. As an example of emerging global standards. However, there's always variations that we deal with across different jurisdictions. So to the extent, again, I come back to the point around harmonisation and normalisation of standards and reflections of standards in national and national regulatory regimes, but also increasing, if you like, sort of market and investor importance given to these issues. It's in our interests to raise the bar across all aspects of human rights risk as it relates to the energy transition. To the second aspect of the question, issues of circular economy are really increasingly important, and we're seeing movement here through a range of organisations within Australia, such as the Malaysia University Sustainability Institute and others, driving this circular economy agenda, which has to be part of the solution around all aspects of the energy transition.
Thanks, James. And I think again it comes to making sure that those in this room have a good understanding of circular economy and all of the issues that come with that, to be able to have these conversations. Thanks, James. Okay, we're coming to Darcy, last but not least, to tell us about what has happened in Collie. We wanted to make sure that we did have a rights holder representative in this session to talk about what actually happens on the ground and the challenges. Some of you may have listened to the Institute for Human Rights and Businesses podcast, where I first heard Darcy speak and explain what they're doing there, and we're really grateful to him for travelling from WA here. So go ahead, Darcy's going to explain all about Collie. Thank you.
Thanks for having me here. Very interesting conversation about copper. I was a former exploration drill rig assistant in the Midwest out of Meekatharra for about 18 months, nearly 10 years ago now. And I have to say the conditions not working for BHP, but working for another company were pretty appalling in Western Australia at that time. So I really dread to think about what conditions are like for some of the deposits that are coming online over the next couple of years around the world. Has anybody here been to Collie? Yes? see Lauren. Lauren comes from Collie. I spoke to her last night. So for those of you that have been to Collie, you know Collie's a really beautiful place in the middle of the state forest in southwest Western Australia, about 2.5-ish hours south of Perth. And just a bit of a potted history of the Collie story. Collie's a coal mining town. Many of you would know similar towns around the country and around the world, in the Latrobe Valley, Hunter Valley, Gladstone, very kind of similar places to Collie. And the potted history really is that in 2007, our now Secretary Steve McCartney, the Rudd government had come in, which Chris was a big part of, and there was this push on for greenfields manufacturing in brownfields areas. It's the kind of old renewable superpower language. And Steve took that to Collie. He stands in front of, he says, kind of 300 of our members. I think there's a bit of union maths for union organisers in the room about that. It was a large crowd, I understand. I'm reliably told that it was a large crowd. And he's saying to our members, we need to think about what's coming after coal. We need to really imagine what a future for this town looks like. You guys need to be a part of it. And he was, people were reluctant to hear that. It got pretty messy. Again, I'm reliably told he was punched in the head that night. So, not always kind of hugs. But Steve kept on the campaign for a really long time. You've got to remember that's 2007. When, relevantly for this crew here, when the Paris Agreement came in 2015, and Sharon spoke last night, and all the amazing work done by the ITUC in the lead up to that, to get a just transition framework into the Paris Agreement, our union took it really seriously. We were successful at getting various bits and pieces related to just transition, but specifically just transition for Collie into various kind of Labor Party documents ahead of the 2017 WA state election. The McGowan government come in 2017. There's an election commitment to a just transition for Collie, and then it kind of turns into a plan in 2018, 19, 20, and then rolls through over the last kind of 5 years to where we are now. That's the kind of short history. In Collie, there are about 1,800 impacted workers by transition. So there are 2 large coal mines. Speaking to Lauren again last night about some of her family that works at Griffin Coal, one of the real problem child of transition, but a really large employer in Collie. 2 publicly owned power stations, Collie A in Nuja, and then Blue Waters Power Station, which is a privately owned power station. So it's a complicated kind of mix of ownership and various levels of commitment to transition. But basically, the kind of undergirding principle of so much of our work in Collie, and the core undergirding is that just transition is something it's happening right now to real people, right? Like it's not a promise that government makes. It's not a promise that the union makes. It's a process that people build power through, and that people need to be a part of for it to be successful. And you need that material benefit of a campaign like a just transition to be now. You can't say to a bunch of workers, the government certainly can't say to a bunch of workers, kind of, don't worry, there's new jobs around the corner, you'll all be fine, just wait and see you later, we're going back to Perth, and we'll talk to you in 6 to 12 months about what's coming next. It won't work. People don't trust that, you lose momentum straight away, the whole program falls apart. And having that material benefit, trying to find what the different pieces are that are actually going to change people's lives right now is really challenging, because for a place like Collie, and this is true of all coal mining communities, you have these twin challenges, right? You have the first thing, which is this issue of identity. Again, talking to Lauren about this, her family's experience as impacted workers. There's a whole lot of identity stuff wrapped up in coal communities. These are communities which are proud of the way that they have operated over a